A cowboy froze at the depot when he saw the mail-order bride who was his first kiss. Jack Thompson was born on a small cattle ranch in the wide-open plains of Texas. The sun rose early each morning, painting the sky with streaks of gold and orange, and Jack would be up before it, ready to help his father tend the cattle. From a young age, Jack learned the rhythm of ranch life, the sound of hooves on soft earth, the smell of hay in the barns, and the cool, fresh air that carried both the scent of the land and the promise of a long day ahead. His family had lived on this land for generations, and they knew how to work hard to make it thrive. Jack's childhood was not easy, but it was full of lessons. He learned how to ride horses before he could even walk properly, how to rope cattle, and how to mend fences with hands that grew rough and strong from labor. His father, a serious but kind man, taught him that honor and honesty were the most important traits a man could have. Jack listened closely, knowing that these lessons would guide him for the rest of his life. His mother, gentle and patient, filled his world with warmth, teaching him to care for others and to notice the little things. A flower blooming near the fence, the first frost on the grass, or the way the river sparkled in the sunlight. Among the people who lived near the ranch, none was closer to Jack than Mary Collins, the girl who lived next door. They were the same age, grew up together, and shared countless adventures. On hot summer days they would run barefoot through the fields, laughing as the wind tangled their hair. They would climb the old oak tree at the edge of the pasture and pretend it was their own secret kingdom. Jack remembered the first time he and Mary kissed, a small, innocent peck under that oak tree, after a day spent chasing butterflies. It was a memory that stayed with him, tucked away quietly in his heart, even as the years pulled him in different directions. Life, however, had a way of teaching lessons beyond the lessons of the ranch. As they grew older, Jack and Mary's paths began to diverge. Mary's family moved to a nearby town for work, and Jack stayed behind, tied to the land and the responsibilities of the ranch. They wrote letters for a time, small notes filled with news about school, neighbors, and farm chores, but eventually life became busier and the letters grew less frequent. The distance between them was not just physical, it began to grow in their hearts as well. Still, Jack never forgot Mary. He thought of her often, especially on quiet evenings when he watched the sun dip below the horizon, and the world seemed both vast and lonely. Jack grew into a strong, capable young man. His hands were calloused from work, his legs steady from riding for hours across the open fields, and his eyes were sharp from years of watching over cattle. He had a quiet confidence about him, a calm that came from knowing he could handle whatever life threw his way. People in the nearby town respected him for his honesty and reliability. Jack wasn't one to seek attention or boast about his skills. He preferred the simple satisfaction of a day well spent, a fence mended, or a stubborn calf finally rounded up. Despite the rugged life, Jack sometimes felt a deep loneliness. He worked alongside men who shared the same routines, laughed at the same jokes, and understood the hardships of ranch life. But there was a part of him that longed for companionship. He dreamed of someone to sit beside him by the fire, to share stories after a long day, and to laugh at small, ordinary moments. He knew life on the ranch was demanding, and he wanted someone who could understand that life, not just tolerate it. Evenings on the ranch were Jack's favorite time of the day. After the cattle were fed and the horses settled into their stalls, he would walk along the fence line, feeling the cool breeze on his face and listening to the soft sounds of the land settling into night. The crickets began their chorus, and the stars appeared, one by one, until the sky was a blanket of shimmering light. It was in these moments that Jack's thoughts often returned to Mary. He wondered what she was doing, whether she was happy, and if she ever thought of him the way he thought of her. He felt a mix of sadness and warmth, knowing that some memories never truly fade, even when life moves on. Jack's family often teased him about his quiet nature. "You're too serious, Jack," his father would say with a chuckle. "You need to loosen up and enjoy life a bit more." But Jack simply smiled, understanding that his seriousness came from caring deeply about the people and things he loved. He wasn't a man to rush into decisions or speak without thinking. He observed, listened, and learned before acting, and that made him someone others trusted and respected. On weekends, when work allowed, Jack would ride into the small town nearby to sell cattle or buy supplies. The town was lively compared to the quiet of the ranch, with merchants calling out their wares, children running through the streets, and the scent of fresh bread wafting from the bakery. Jack enjoyed these visits, not just for the business, but for the small glimpses of a world beyond the ranch. He would sometimes imagine what life might be like if he could spend more time exploring, meeting new people, and perhaps finding someone to share his life with. Yet, no matter where he went, the memory of Mary always lingered, a gentle reminder of a past he cherished. As Jack approached his 20s, he began to think seriously about the future. He wanted to honor his family, care for the land, and continue the ranching life he loved. But he also knew he wanted a companion, someone who could walk beside him through the challenges and joys of life. The thought of finding a wife who understood the demands of ranch life, someone who could love the land as much as he did, became more pressing. Yet, deep in his heart, he also wondered if he would ever find someone like Mary, someone who shared his past, his dreams, and the memories of a simpler, innocent time. Jack's life on the ranch taught him patience. He understood that good things often came slowly, that hard work and care could turn small seeds into strong, fruitful plants, and that love, too, might grow quietly in its own time. He often thought that perhaps fate had a plan for him, just as it had for Mary, wherever she was. He hoped that one day paths might cross again, though he did not know when or how. In the evenings, Jack would sometimes sit on the porch of the ranch house, strumming a simple tune on his guitar. Music had a way of soothing his thoughts and bringing back memories. The tune often reminded him of Mary, of laughter echoing across the fields, and of the first kiss that had left a mark on his heart. He would play quietly, hoping that one day the right person would hear his song, even if it was only in spirit. Life on the ranch was not without challenges. There were storms that tore across the plains, threatening the cattle and the fences. There were harsh winters when snow and ice made every task more difficult. Yet, Jack faced each challenge with determination, learning not just to survive, but to thrive. He understood that life was a mixture of hard work, hope, and occasional joy, and he carried that understanding in everything he did. And so Jack Thompson's days passed in a rhythm of work, reflection, and quiet longing. The ranch remained his home, the land his responsibility, and the memories of Mary his private treasure. Though the years stretched on, he never forgot the girl who had shared his first kiss, the girl who had filled his childhood with laughter and wonder. In the back of his mind, a small spark of hope lingered, waiting for the day when life might offer another chance, when past and present could meet in a way that was both unexpected and perfectly right. Little did Jack know, that day was closer than he imagined. The world was vast, and life often moved in strange and surprising ways. One day, at a train depot far from the open plains, he would encounter a memory made real, and the course of his life would shift in ways he had never dreamed. But for now, he remained on the ranch, working the land he loved, carrying the memories of his childhood, and nurturing a quiet hope that fate might have one more surprise for him. As the years passed, Jack Thompson continued to work on his family ranch, gaining more experience and respect among the nearby ranchers and townsfolk. Though life was steady and predictable, there was always a quiet longing in his heart. He had grown strong, capable, and independent, yet he could not ignore the emptiness that sometimes crept in during the long, silent evenings. The laughter of family was comforting, but Jack yearned for someone to share his life with, someone who could understand the rhythm of ranch life, the joys of a hard day's work, and the peaceful moments at sunset. It was around this time that the idea of a mail-order bride entered his thoughts. The concept was not new. Many men in the West turned to this arrangement to find companions who could share both the responsibilities and the rewards of frontier life. Jack considered it carefully, weighing the advantages against the uncertainties. It was not an easy decision. The thought of inviting a stranger into his home, a person who would live and work alongside him, required courage and patience. Yet, Jack felt that perhaps this was the way to bring companionship into his life, someone who would respect his past, his work, and his values. Jack began the process cautiously. He wrote letters describing the ranch, the work he did, and the life he could offer. He was honest about the hardships as well as the rewards, ensuring that any woman who responded would understand the reality of life on the plains. Days turned into weeks as he awaited responses, reading each letter carefully, noting the character, temperament, and hopes of the women who wrote to him. Some letters were practical, others kind and warm, but none seemed to spark the connection he quietly longed for. Still, Jack did not lose hope. He believed that, with patience, he could find a woman who was not only willing but eager to share a life built on hard work, honesty, and mutual respect. Meanwhile, Mary Collins's life had taken her far from the quiet countryside of her childhood. After her family moved to a nearby town, she worked in small shops and later as a school teacher, learning to adapt to the challenges of adult life. Mary had grown into a strong and capable woman, intelligent and kind, yet she carried memories of her childhood that were both sweet and bittersweet. She often thought of Jack, the boy who had been her first friend, her first confidant, and her first kiss. Life had separated them, but those early years had left an imprint on her heart. One evening, Mary saw an advertisement in the town newspaper, a call for women willing to become mail-order brides in the West. It was a bold step, but Mary had always been adventurous at heart. She remembered the freedom of running through the fields, the thrill of exploring the unknown, and the quiet determination that had shaped her life. She wrote her letter with care, describing herself honestly, her skills, her values, and her desire for a meaningful life. She sent the letter off, not knowing to whom it would go, only hoping that fate might lead her to a home where she could belong and be respected. Weeks passed slowly, filled with anticipation for both Jack and Mary. Jack continued his work, riding across the open plains, tending the cattle, and repairing fences, yet he often wondered whether any of the women who had written would truly be the right match. Mary, too, waited patiently, tending to her daily responsibilities and imagining the life that might come if her letter was answered. Both of them were unaware of the twist of fate that was quietly preparing to bring them together again. Finally, a letter arrived for Jack. He carefully opened the envelope and read the words inside, feeling a spark of curiosity and hope. The letter was from Mary, though he did not know it yet, and it described a woman with warmth, intelligence, and a sense of humor that reminded him, in a way he could not yet understand, of the life he had once known in his childhood. He felt drawn to her words, the honesty in her description of herself, and the thoughtful tone that suggested a kindred spirit. Jack wrote back immediately, continuing the careful process of correspondence, asking questions about her life, her expectations, and her dreams. As letters crossed the miles between the ranch and Mary's town, a subtle connection began to form. They shared stories of their daily lives, spoke of the challenges they had faced, and even exchanged small anecdotes about people they both remembered from the past. Although neither realized the depth of their shared history at first, a sense of familiarity began to grow, as if they had known each other longer than the letters suggested. Jack found himself looking forward to each letter, reading Mary's words again and again, savoring the warmth and sincerity in her writing. Mary did the same, smiling at Jack's descriptions of life on the ranch, imagining what it would be like to live among the open fields, horses, and cattle. During this period, Jack reflected more deeply on his life. The letters had awakened a sense of hope he had not felt in years. He thought about the woman he might meet, wondering if she would understand the routines of the ranch, the early mornings, the long rides, and the quiet evenings. He thought about companionship, not just for comfort, but as a true partnership, someone who could share the responsibilities and joys of life on the land. Jack realized that love was not just about feelings. It was about shared experiences, mutual respect, and a willingness to build a life together. Mary, meanwhile, pictured the journey she would undertake. She imagined traveling by train to a place she had never seen, meeting a man she had only known through letters, and stepping into a life that might be very different from her own. It was both thrilling and intimidating. She remembered Jack in her thoughts often, though she did not know that he was the man she would soon meet. Yet there was a quiet confidence in her heart that this journey was right, that life sometimes worked in ways that were unexpected and extraordinary. As the day of the meeting approached, Jack prepared carefully. He polished his boots, checked his horse and saddle, and even cleaned the small guest room where his bride would stay. He wanted to be ready for the moment, to make a good impression, and to show the woman who would soon arrive that he was serious about building a life together. His heart beat a little faster than usual, a mixture of excitement and nervousness that he had not felt in years. He imagined her stepping off the train, walking toward him, and perhaps feeling the same mixture of curiosity and hope. Mary, too, prepared for her journey. She packed her belongings carefully, selecting practical clothes for the West, as well as a few small keepsakes from home. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, wondering about the man who would meet her, about the life she was stepping into, and about the possibility of happiness in a place so far from everything she had known. She remembered the boy she had once known, the first kiss under the oak tree, and the laughter they had shared, though she did not know if fate would reunite them. The letters had created a bridge between them, a gentle connection that would soon be tested in the real world. Both Jack and Mary carried hope, curiosity, and the faintest trace of nostalgia in their hearts. They were about to step into a moment that would change their lives, though neither fully understood how. It was a time of anticipation, of dreams, and of the quiet belief that life, in its mysterious way, had something extraordinary in store. Little did they know, the woman Jack was preparing to meet was none other than Mary Collins, the girl who had shared his first kiss many years ago. The memory of that childhood moment had lingered in both of their hearts, even as they grew older and their lives took separate paths. The reunion was about to happen, and it would bring with it a flood of memories, emotions, and the possibility of a love that had waited patiently for the right moment. As Jack rode toward the train depot on the morning his bride was to arrive, he felt a mixture of excitement and calm. He was ready to meet this woman, to see if the connection forged through letters could become a real and lasting bond. At the same time, he carried the quiet hope that life could surprise him, that the future might hold joy and companionship beyond what he had imagined. Mary, riding on the train, felt the same mixture of excitement, hope, and curiosity, unaware that the past and present were about to collide in the most unexpected and extraordinary way. The story of Jack and Mary, of the ranch and the letters, of patience, hope, and destiny, was about to enter a new chapter. The reunion at the depot would mark the beginning of a journey that neither could have predicted, yet both had been preparing for in their hearts for many years. The letters had connected them, but the real test of fate, courage, and love was about to begin. The morning sun was just beginning to climb over the horizon when Jack Thompson rode toward the small-town depot. The sky was painted with soft shades of pink and gold, the kind of colors that made the open plains seem even more endless and beautiful. The horses snorted and shuffled, their hooves kicking up small clouds of dust as Jack guided his faithful steed along the dirt road. Today was not an ordinary day. Today he would meet the woman who had responded to his letters, the mail-order bride who might become his companion, the person who would share his life and the long, quiet days on the ranch. Jack's heart beat faster with each step of the horse. He had rehearsed what he might say, imagined how the woman might appear, and tried to picture what the first moments of meeting would feel like. Yet no amount of imagining could prepare him for the strange mix of excitement, curiosity, and nerves that now coursed through him. He pulled his coat tighter against the morning chill, glanced at the neatly packed bags he had placed near the depot, and tried to calm the restless energy in his chest. At the same time, Mary Collins sat in her seat aboard the train, gripping her small suitcase tightly. She watched the countryside pass by in slow, rolling waves of green and brown. Her heart fluttered with anticipation, the same kind of nervous excitement she had felt as a child when embarking on a new adventure. She had spent weeks preparing for this journey, thinking about the man she would meet, imagining what the ranch might look like, and wondering if she would feel at home in a world so different from the town she had grown up in. Mary had no idea that the man she would soon meet was none other than Jack Thompson, the boy who had been her first friend, her first confidant, and the boy who had shared her first kiss under the old oak tree years ago. The memory of that day had lingered in her heart, though she had almost convinced herself it was nothing more than a sweet childhood recollection. Little did she know that fate was bringing them together once more, at the very moment when both were ready for new beginnings. The train slowed as it approached the depot, its wheels clattering rhythmically along the tracks. Passengers leaned out of windows, brushing the dust from their clothes, and the station master waved at the arriving travelers. Jack dismounted from his horse and walked toward the platform, carrying himself with a calm, confident air despite the nervous energy under his skin. He scanned the crowd, looking for a woman who might match the description in the letters, someone whose eyes held warmth, intelligence, and kindness. Then he saw her. Mary stepped off the train, her small suitcase in hand, and for a moment Jack froze. The world seemed to slow, as if the colors of the morning had dimmed and only she remained in sharp focus. The sun caught her hair, the breeze played with her dress, and Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He could not believe his eyes. There she was, older, grown into a woman, yet unmistakably the same Mary from his childhood memories. His mind raced, recalling that first kiss under the oak tree, the laughter they had shared, and the countless adventures that had made up their early years. Mary, too, felt a strange sense of recognition. She looked at the man waiting at the platform, and something deep in her memory stirred. His posture, the way he carried himself, and the calm confidence in his eyes all felt familiar, though she could not immediately place why. A sudden, powerful wave of nostalgia washed over her, and for a moment she could only stand there, stunned by the realization that the boy from her past was standing before her as a grown man. Jack took a careful step forward, still unsure if he should speak first or simply let the moment unfold. He had imagined greeting a stranger, a woman he only knew through letters, but never had he imagined meeting someone who held such a deep place in his heart. His voice caught slightly when he finally spoke. "Mary?" Her eyes widened in surprise, and a smile slowly spread across her face as recognition dawned. "Jack?" she whispered, almost disbelieving. For a moment, neither spoke, both caught in the incredible coincidence of the moment. The memories of childhood laughter, secret games in the fields, and that very first kiss seemed to swirl around them, creating a connection that words could not immediately describe. The bustling depot faded into the background as they approached each other. Jack extended a hand, though not in the formal way one might meet a stranger. It was warmer, more personal, as if he was reaching out not just to greet her, but to bridge the years they had spent apart. Mary took his hand, feeling a gentle familiarity, a sense of comfort and trust that surprised her. Neither had expected this reunion, yet it felt somehow inevitable, as if life had been quietly arranging this meeting for years. They walked together to a quiet corner of the platform, away from the bustle of travelers and the clattering of the train. Jack wanted to speak, to explain how he had chosen a mail-order bride without knowing that it would be her. But words seemed unnecessary in the presence of such a powerful moment. Instead, they talked softly about their lives since childhood, sharing small stories and updates. Jack spoke of his years on the ranch, the long days of hard work, and the satisfaction of caring for the land. Mary shared her journey, the towns she had lived in, the jobs she had taken, and the lessons life had taught her. As they spoke, they discovered a surprising number of similarities in their experiences, values, and hopes for the future. It was as if the years apart had not truly changed the essence of who they were. The connection they had shared as children had deepened into something stronger, built on maturity, understanding, and a genuine appreciation for each other. Jack realized that the woman he had chosen through letters was far more than he had imagined. She was someone he had loved once, and now had the chance to love again in a new way. Mary, too, felt a sense of relief and joy. She had been nervous about meeting a stranger, unsure if the connection forged through letters would be real, but here was Jack, familiar yet grown, steady and kind, someone she could trust and feel safe with. Her heart swelled with emotions she had not expected, nostalgia, happiness, and a hint of excitement for the life that might lie ahead. The platform around them began to fill with other travelers, but Jack and Mary remained focused on each other. The world seemed to shrink, leaving just the two of them in that moment, surrounded by memories, hope, and the quiet understanding that life had brought them back together for a reason. Their laughter returned naturally, mingling with the gentle sounds of the morning, as if the years apart had never truly existed. Jack finally spoke about the mail-order bride arrangement, explaining that he had written letters to several women but had not anticipated this extraordinary twist of fate. Mary listened, smiling, understanding that sometimes life worked in ways that were beyond human planning. They realized that this chance encounter was more than coincidence. It was an opportunity to build something meaningful together, something rooted in the past but ready to grow in the present. After a few moments of quiet reflection, Jack offered Mary his arm, a simple gesture of care and protection. She accepted, and together they began walking toward the horse-drawn carriage he had arranged. The journey from the depot to the ranch would be filled with conversation, laughter, and a slow rediscovery of the bond they had shared as children. Each step they took brought a sense of reassurance that perhaps this reunion was the beginning of a life filled with partnership, respect, and love. As they moved away from the train and toward the open road, Jack looked at Mary, remembering the first time they had kissed under the oak tree. He wondered if they would ever find a moment like that again, a quiet moment where the world seemed to stand still. Mary caught his glance and smiled knowingly, feeling the same connection and hope that had carried both of them through the years. It was a beginning, a chance to create new memories while honoring the old ones. The train depot, once a place of bustling activity and strangers, had become the stage for an extraordinary reunion. Jack and Mary's story was no longer just about letters and memories. It had become real, tangible, and full of possibilities. Together, they stepped into the next chapter of their lives, hearts open to the surprises that fate had in store, ready to embrace the journey of love, partnership, and shared dreams. After leaving the train depot, Jack guided Mary toward the carriage. He had arranged to take them to the ranch. The morning air was crisp, and the sun now shone warmly, painting the countryside in shades of gold and green. Mary felt a flutter of nervous excitement mixed with a comforting sense of familiarity. It was strange and wonderful to be with Jack again, to walk beside him after so many years, and to discover that the boy she had known had grown into a man she could admire and trust. The carriage ride was quiet at first, each lost in their own thoughts, but the silence was not uncomfortable. It was a moment of reflection, of letting the reality of the reunion settle in. Jack glanced at Mary occasionally, noticing the way her eyes lit up when she looked at the passing fields, the gentle curve of her smile, and the calm way she carried herself despite the journey she had taken. He felt a warmth in his chest, a recognition that this meeting was not just chance. It was a rare gift, one that he intended to cherish. Mary, meanwhile, studied Jack's features, noting how they had matured. His strong jaw, the steady gaze in his eyes, and the way he carried himself spoke of years of hard work and responsibility. Yet, beneath that strength, she sensed the same gentleness, the same careful thoughtfulness that had made her trust him as a child. She felt an unexpected comfort in his presence, as though time had only deepened the bond they had begun so many years ago. When they arrived at the ranch, Jack showed Mary around with quiet pride. The field stretched wide and open, dotted with cattle grazing peacefully. The barns and fences, though weathered by years of use, stood sturdy and well-kept. Horses whinnied softly from their stalls, and the sound of the wind rustling through the tall grass seemed to welcome them. Jack spoke with pride about the work he had done to maintain the ranch, but also with humility, acknowledging that life on the plains was never easy, and that every day required care, effort, and patience. Mary listened intently, absorbing the rhythm of ranch life through Jack's words. She asked questions about the work, the routines, and the challenges he faced, and Jack answered patiently, appreciating her genuine interest. It was clear that she was not intimidated by the hard work, but rather intrigued by the possibilities it offered. Her willingness to understand and adapt reassured Jack, showing him that she could be more than a companion. She could be a partner in every sense of the word. As the day progressed, Jack and Mary began to share more personal stories. Jack spoke of his memories of childhood adventures, of the games he and Mary had played in the fields, and of the innocent first kiss under the oak tree. Mary smiled, recalling the same moments with a mixture of nostalgia and delight. They laughed at their childhood antics and marveled at how much they had grown since then. The shared memories created a bridge between the past and the present, reinforcing the connection that had never truly faded. Yet, alongside the laughter, there were moments of quiet reflection. Jack admitted that he had often thought of Mary during the years they were apart, wondering what had become of her and whether life had treated her well. Mary revealed similar thoughts, describing the times she had remembered him and wondered if he had ever felt the same connection. These confessions deepened their bond, showing them that their feelings were not limited to childhood nostalgia, but had matured into something meaningful and enduring. Despite the joy of reunion, there were also challenges. Both had changed over the years, shaped by their experiences, responsibilities, and the paths they had taken. Jack, accustomed to the solitude and routines of ranch life, needed to consider how to integrate Mary into his world without overwhelming her. Mary, having lived independently and faced her own hardships, needed to adjust to the demands of frontier life while maintaining her own sense of identity. They discussed these realities openly, respecting each other's perspectives and acknowledging that building a life together required understanding, compromise, and patience. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the fields, Jack took Mary to the old oak tree where they had shared their first kiss. The tree stood strong and steady, its branches reaching wide as if to embrace the sky. They stood beneath it for a moment, silent, letting the weight of memories and the promise of new beginnings settle around them. Jack brushed a small strand of hair from Mary's face and smiled, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. Mary returned the smile, feeling a warmth she had not known for years, a quiet certainty that this reunion was meant to be. The conversation turned to the future. Jack spoke of the responsibilities of running the ranch, the challenges they might face, and the rewards of hard work. Mary shared her hopes for partnership, companionship, and a life built on mutual respect and love. They discussed practical matters, the division of work, the routines, and the roles they would each take, but also the importance of supporting each other emotionally, of creating a home filled with laughter, trust, and shared dreams. As evening approached, Jack prepared a simple meal for them both. They ate on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink, orange, and purple. The quiet of the plains settled around them, and the sounds of the cattle and horses provided a comforting backdrop. They spoke softly, sharing thoughts, dreams, and small stories from their lives. The ordinary act of sharing a meal became a meaningful ritual, symbolizing the beginning of their new life together. After dinner, they sat together on the porch swing, letting the night air cool their cheeks. The stars appeared, scattered across the sky like diamonds, and the moon rose, casting a gentle light over the ranch. Jack and Mary spoke less now, simply enjoying each other's presence, the comfort of shared silence, and the realization that the bond between them had grown stronger than ever. They understood that love was not always about grand gestures, but about the quiet, steady moments of companionship and understanding. Throughout the night, memories of the past continued to weave through their conversation. They recalled childhood adventures, shared secrets, and moments of innocence that had shaped their early bond. But they also spoke of the lessons they had learned, the challenges they had faced, and the resilience that had carried them through the years. These reflections allowed them to see each other fully, to appreciate not just who they had been, but who they had become. By the time the stars shone high above the plains, Jack and Mary had come to an unspoken understanding. The past had brought them together, but it was the present and the future that would define their relationship. They were ready to face life side by side, to build a partnership based on respect, love, and shared effort. The challenges of ranch life would be many, but with each other's support, they felt confident they could meet them. As they prepared to retire for the night, Jack showed Mary to the guest room he had prepared. It was modest but comfortable, with a small window overlooking the fields and a simple bed neatly made. Mary thanked him, feeling a sense of home she had not expected to find so quickly. Jack promised to help her adjust to life on the ranch, offering guidance, support, and patience as they learned to navigate their shared life together. Before leaving the room, Jack paused, turning to Mary with a gentle smile. "We've both changed," he said softly, "but I believe that doesn't matter. What matters is that we're here, now, together, and I'm willing to face whatever comes. If you are." Mary smiled, feeling a deep sense of trust and hope. "I am," she replied. "I've waited a long time for something like this, and I believe we can make it work. Together." As the night settled over the ranch, Jack and Mary each reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The twists of fate, the years apart, the letters exchanged, they all led to this moment of reconnection, of rediscovery, and of the quiet promise of a shared future. The old oak tree, the fields, and the ranch itself had witnessed their first memories, and now stood as witnesses to a new beginning, a chance to build a life together filled with love, respect, and shared dreams. By the time morning arrived, Jack and Mary had begun to settle into the routines of life on the ranch. There were chores to do, animals to care for, and tasks that required teamwork and cooperation. Yet, even in the busyness of daily life, they found time to speak, laugh, and grow closer. Each moment strengthened their bond, each shared responsibility built trust, and each quiet glance or gentle touch reminded them of the extraordinary journey that had brought them together. The reunion at the depot had been just the beginning. Now, Jack and Mary faced the challenge of blending past memories with present realities, of learning to live together as partners, while honoring the lives they had led independently. It was not always easy, but the joy of companionship, the warmth of shared laughter, and the hope of a future built together made every effort worthwhile. In the quiet evenings beneath the endless sky, they often returned to the oak tree, sharing memories, hopes, and plans for the days ahead. They understood that love was both simple and profound, found not just in extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary rhythm of life, feeding cattle, mending fences, preparing meals, and walking together across the fields. These moments, simple yet powerful, became the foundation of their relationship, a relationship built on trust, respect, and the quiet magic of rediscovery. And so, Jack and Mary Thompson began their life together on the ranch, rediscovering a connection that had never truly faded, learning to navigate the challenges of daily life, and embracing the hope, joy, and love that comes from finding a partner who understands not just the past, but the present and the future as well. The morning sun rose gently over the wide-open plains, casting golden light across the ranch where Jack and Mary were beginning their life together. The air smelled of fresh grass and dew, and the soft sounds of cattle and horses carried across the fields. Jack had already begun his morning chores, feeding the animals and checking the fences, while Mary followed, learning the rhythm of ranch life. There was a quiet joy in these small routines, a sense that every task completed together was a step toward building a future grounded in partnership, trust, and love. Mary had quickly adapted to the routines of ranch life, though she was careful to ask questions and observe the way Jack worked. She learned how to feed the horses, tend the cattle, and prepare meals that fueled long, active days. Jack watched with quiet pride as Mary's hands grew confident in the work, her laughter filling the air when something humorous happened, or when a calf acted stubborn. Her presence brought a new warmth to the ranch, a liveliness that had been missing for so long. As the day progressed, Jack and Mary found time to walk together through the fields. The breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and the soft hum of bees, and the sun shone warmly on their faces. They spoke freely about their dreams, their memories, and their hopes for the future. Jack spoke of the importance of working together, of being honest and patient, and of facing challenges side by side. Mary shared her own thoughts, speaking of companionship, shared joy, and the quiet satisfaction of building a life rooted in trust and understanding. It was during these walks that they began to discuss the long-term future, imagining what life might look like as they continued to live and work on the ranch together. They spoke of expanding the farm, caring for more animals, and perhaps even starting a family. Each conversation was filled with hope and excitement, but also a careful consideration of the realities of life on the plains. They knew that hard work would be required, but the thought of facing it together made the tasks feel lighter, more meaningful, and even enjoyable. In the evenings, Jack and Mary would sit together beneath the old oak tree, the same tree where their first kiss had occurred many years ago. It had stood as a silent witness to their childhood, their separation, and now their reunion. The tree's wide branches cast soft shadows on the ground, creating a sense of peace and continuity. Jack would take Mary's hand, and they would talk quietly about the day, sharing moments of joy, minor frustrations, and small victories. These moments, simple yet profound, strengthened their bond and reminded them both that love could be found not just in extraordinary gestures, but in the ordinary rhythm of life. Mary began to take on more responsibilities around the ranch, often working alongside Jack in the fields or the barns. They learned to communicate without words at times, understanding each other's movements and intentions as if they had always worked side by side. The ranch, once a place of solitary labor for Jack, now felt alive with shared purpose and shared care. Every task completed together, from mending a fence to gathering eggs from the hens, became a symbol of their growing partnership. Jack, for his part, felt a deep satisfaction in seeing Mary adapt and thrive. He admired her resilience, her intelligence, and her willingness to embrace a life so different from the one she had known. At the same time, he felt a sense of wonder that life had brought them back together after so many years. Their shared memories, combined with their present experiences, created a bond stronger than either could have imagined. Jack realized that love was not just about passion, but about mutual respect, care, and the shared commitment to facing life together. As weeks turned into months, the ranch began to reflect their partnership. New fences were built, additional animals were brought in, and the land seemed more vibrant than ever before. Jack and Mary took pride in these accomplishments, knowing that they were not just maintaining the ranch, but creating a home together. Their teamwork extended beyond work. They shared meals, cared for each other's health, and celebrated small milestones with quiet joy. Every day became an opportunity to strengthen their connection and deepen their love. In the evenings, they often returned to the oak tree, sitting together and speaking softly about their lives, their memories, and their dreams. They recalled the innocent adventures of childhood, the letters that had connected them across miles, and the improbable coincidence that had brought them together at the depot. Each story was a thread in the fabric of their relationship, weaving past and present into a tapestry of love, hope, and shared purpose. One afternoon, Jack and Mary took time to explore the nearby hills, riding horseback across the rolling landscape. The wind rushed past them, and the freedom of the open plains filled their hearts with joy. They laughed as they raced each other along narrow paths and paused often to take in the beauty around them. Jack felt a sense of peace he had never known before, a quiet certainty that life with Mary was exactly where he was meant to be. Mary, too, felt a deep contentment, realizing that she had found a companion who understood her, respected her, and loved her for who she was. As the seasons changed, their love continued to grow. Spring brought new life to the ranch, with calves born in the fields and flowers blooming along the fences. Summer days were filled with long hours in the sun, tending to crops and animals, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life outdoors. Autumn painted the landscape in brilliant reds and golds, and winter brought quiet nights by the fire, where they would sit together sharing stories, planning for the future, and simply enjoying the warmth of each other's presence. Through every season, Jack and Mary supported one another, learning to anticipate each other's needs, to offer encouragement, and to share the burdens of work and life. They found that true companionship was built not just on shared joy, but on facing difficulties together, celebrating successes, and comforting each other in times of challenge. The ranch became more than a home. It became a symbol of their partnership, a testament to their love, resilience, and shared commitment to a life built together. Evenings often ended beneath the oak tree, where the past and present met. They would sit quietly, sometimes speaking, sometimes simply enjoying the peace of the plains, and often holding hands in a gesture that spoke of trust, care, and deep affection. The tree had been a silent witness to their childhood, their separation, and their reunion. Now it stood as a symbol of their enduring love, a reminder that the simplest things, a shared memory, a quiet moment, or a hand held in comfort, could carry the greatest meaning. As the years passed, Jack and Mary's life on the ranch grew richer with shared experiences. They faced hardships together, storms that threatened the cattle, long winters that tested their endurance, and moments of fatigue that challenged their resolve. Yet, in each trial, they found strength in each other. Their laughter returned even in difficult times, and their love deepened as they worked side by side, building a life filled with purpose, joy, and quiet satisfaction. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jack and Mary stood beneath the oak tree, their hands entwined and hearts full. They looked out across the fields, seeing the land they had tended together, the animals that depended on them, and the home they had built. Jack spoke softly. "I never imagined life could bring us back together like this, but now I cannot imagine it any other way." Mary smiled, feeling a profound sense of happiness. "I feel the same," she said. "Our paths may have separated us, but they also brought us back at the right time. I couldn't ask for a better life than this, with you." In that quiet moment, they understood that love was not always about grand gestures or dramatic events. It was about presence, support, shared work, and the simple joy of knowing that someone was always there for you. They had found something rare and precious, a love that had begun in childhood, survived separation, and grown stronger through patience, understanding, and shared experience. From that day forward, Jack and Mary Thompson lived fully, embracing each moment, working together and building a life of shared purpose and happiness. They celebrated small victories and found joy in the ordinary. They honored the past, cherished the present, and looked forward to the future with hope and confidence. Their story was one of resilience, destiny, and the quiet magic that can occur when two hearts are meant to be together. Through the years, the oak tree remained a symbol of their enduring bond. Beneath its branches, they shared memories, quiet conversations, and moments of tenderness. The ranch thrived, a reflection of their love and teamwork, and the plains, wide and open, became the setting for a life filled with meaning, companionship, and deep, lasting happiness. Jack and Mary had discovered that true love was more than a feeling. It was a life built together, a partnership forged through trust, respect, and shared dreams. The story of the cowboy and the girl who had been his first kiss had come full circle, transforming from a childhood memory into a lifetime of joy, connection, and fulfillment. And so, as the sun set each evening over the plains, Jack and Mary Thompson continued their journey side by side, hearts entwined, hands joined, and spirits united. Life on the ranch was never easy, but it was always full of purpose, laughter, and love. The kind of love that could withstand time, distance, and the twists of fate, and emerge stronger and more beautiful than anyone could have imagined.